They cut my access at 9:06 a.m., and by 9:07 I understood something they didn't. Security was already waiting when I walked out of the conference room. My Slack logged out mid-message. My laptop screen went gray with a remote wipe notification before I reached the elevator. Standard procedure, HR said, like that made humiliation sterile. What they didn't realize was that access wasn't the most valuable thing I had. Ownership was. 3 days earlier, we had closed a $48 million Series B. Investors praised our proprietary routing intelligence. The CEO called it defensible. Revolutionary. Fully internal. I built the core of that system. Not at the company. Years before them. When they recruited me, I insisted on a clause buried in Section 4 of my employment agreement. Pre-existing intellectual property remains the sole property of the developer. Company use is licensed contingent upon active employment unless separately negotiated. They signed it. I kept a copy. After they walked me out, I sat in my apartment staring at my bank app. My final paycheck of $19,800 hadn't landed. My quarterly bonus of $31,200 was marked pending legal review. When I emailed payroll, they replied with a single line. Compensation temporarily withheld pending IP clarification. That was the moment it stopped being about pride. It became math. I reread the contract. Termination date, effective immediately. License tied to employment. No survival clause. The license had ended at 9:06 a.m. I didn't log into anything. They'd already revoked my credentials. I didn't need them. Instead, I drafted a formal notice to their general counsel and copied 2 board members whose emails were public in the funding announcement. Subject, Notice of License Termination, Pre-existing Algorithm. I stated the termination date. Cited the clause. Explained that continued commercial deployment of my pre-existing model required a new licensing agreement. I requested immediate release of $51,000 in withheld compensation and initiation of license discussions within 5 business days. I didn't threaten shutdowns. I didn't accuse. I attached the signed agreement. They responded 12 hours later. They claimed the system had been sufficiently modified to constitute company property. They denied withholding wages as leverage. They proposed mediation. 2 days after that, performance metrics began drifting. Their routing accuracy dropped 6%. Nothing catastrophic. Just enough for enterprise clients to notice missed delivery windows. Support tickets climbed. Internal dashboards likely started blinking yellow. The model I built required quarterly recalibration tied to a validation process I had always handled personally. It wasn't sabotage. It was maintenance. Without recalibration, predictive confidence slowly degraded. They had cut my access. They had also cut the only person who knew how to stabilize it. The CEO called me on a Sunday evening. "Are you interfering with our systems?" he asked. "No," I said. "I no longer have access. Our forecasts are degrading." "They will continue to," I replied evenly. The license ended. Silence. "What do you want?" This time, I was ready with specifics. Release the withheld $51,000 immediately. Publicly correct the statement that the core engine was internally developed from scratch. And we negotiate a 3-year non-exclusive commercial license. "How much?" $450,000 per year. He exhaled sharply. "That's $1.35 million. "Yes. You're leveraging temporary instability. I'm pricing dependency." Negotiations stretched for 8 days. Their lawyers pushed back on ownership language. Mine responded with documentation, version histories predating my employment, academic drafts, timestamped commits. Meanwhile, one of their largest clients triggered a performance review clause tied to SLA breaches. Estimated exposure, $780,000 annually if accuracy didn't recover. The tone shifted. They sent 3 structured offers. Offer 1. Immediate release of $51,000. $250,000 one-time settlement. Confidential license acknowledgement. Offer 2. Release of wages. $900,000 over 3 years. No public correction. Offer 3. Immediate payment of $51,000. $125,000 in compensatory damages for withheld wages. $1.35 million 3-year non-exclusive license, $450,000 annually, public statement acknowledging my pre-existing authorship. I chose offer 3. Total immediate transfer, $176,000. Total contracted license value, $1,350,000. Total agreement value, $1,526,000. They wired the first $450,000 installment within 48 hours of signing. The public statement followed 2 days later. We acknowledged that the foundational predictive framework integrated into our platform was originally developed independently and licensed to the company. We regret prior imprecise language. Imprecise. That was fine. 2 months later, I licensed an enhanced version of the same framework to a smaller competitor for $2.1 million upfront and 2.5% of annual revenue. Non-exclusive meant non-exclusive. Within 9 months, 2 major clients migrated. My former company didn't collapse. Real companies rarely do overnight. But investor calls became harder. Growth projections softened. Technical risk appeared in analyst notes where it hadn't before. They cut my access. I cut their certainty. Not with sabotage. Not with noise. With contracts. With numbers. With leverage they had signed without reading closely enough. The most satisfying moment wasn't the $450,000 wire or even the $2.1 million licensing deal. It was when a venture partner told me during a pitch meeting, "We prefer backing founders who actually own their core technology." They thought revoking a badge removed my power. They thought withholding $51,000 would pressure me into compliance. Instead, it clarified something simple. Access is temporary. Ownership isn't. And when the dust settled, I wasn't the one explaining performance drift to investors. I was the one holding the license.